Hey everybody, it's Bill from Jasper Tools, and today we're going to be working with the Circle Pro 240 and my DeWalt 6182 router. Now, normally the first step for this would be to remove the base plate, but because of the setup that I have on that, we don't have to do that today. So we're going to go straight to identifying our holes for the screw alignment by taking it over to the guide. And the guide has our DeWalt 6182 with these dark black circles. So we'll lay this down, and we've got circles here, here, and here. I like to take a pen and do a little mark on the inside of the jig just for faster reference when we get there. Now, what we want to do to get this thing mounted is we want to go into our full plunge, lock that down, and then we'll take our centering pin, place that inside that 1/4 inch collet, just enough so it's snug. And then we will bring over the Circle Pro 240 and slide that down in this centering disc. And that will make it a lot easier for us to turn this jig until we find our specific mounting holes, which are right here. So now we'll go ahead and get this screwed down and tightened. Okay, so now that that is secure, we can go ahead and remove, we'll open this up, we'll remove this centering disc, put that aside and keep that for later. And we can also remove our centering pin from the router collet. Next step will be to install the 1/4 inch upcut bit into the collet. And we want to seat this down nice and snug and get this tightened up. There we go, nice and tight. We are now ready to set the size of the circle that we're going to cut. So for today, we're going to cut a 7 1/4 inch hole. So what we'll do is we'll come over here. We have 7 inches indicated on the horizontal path, and then we'll come up to our 1/4 inch and come all the way over. So this is our 7 1/4 inch hole. We'll take our pivot pin and put that right inside of that hole, and then that will correspond to where we put it on our piece that we're going to cut. Okay, so now that we've got our router set aside and the size of our circle set, now it's time to make some decisions on this piece. So the question would be is, are you cutting out the circle to have a circle in a larger board, or are you cutting it out to have a whole circle without any drill marks in it? So for this piece, I want a circle cut inside of this board. So I am going to mark out the center piece of this piece. So I'm 11 1/4, so I want to mark at 5 5/8, and I will drill through here, and then that is where my pivot pin will go. Now, if you were just cutting out and you wanted the whole circle without any holes inside of it, you want the inside piece, you will use this piece that comes in your Jasper Jig toolkit. And on the double-sided tape section of it, you'll peel this off, place this in the center of your piece, and then this knob will become your pivot pin that goes into the actual jig. And that will allow you to cut whole perfect circles without any holes in it. But for today, we are going to cut a circle out of this piece so we can mount a speaker inside of it. So we have that mounted. Now the next piece to do is to flip our router and jig over, line it up with that screw and make sure it's seated in, and we're ready to cut a perfect circle. Okay, so now that we have our pivot pin in place, it's time to put it into the piece of wood. Flip this over, line it up into the hole, and we'll seat that down nice and snug. And then it is time to get cutting. Obviously we have this unplugged. We don't like to work on power tools that have power to them, so we'll get this turned on. You want to put on your eye protection at this point. Now I am going to cut this in a couple of different passes. I don't actually go all the way through this piece of wood at one time to keep this bit from overheating. So I'm going to do this in a couple of passes at different depths. Go ahead and get this going. Okay, so now that we've cut about halfway through the piece, we're going to go ahead and plunge all the way through. And I'm going to protrude probably about 1/8 of an inch through the actual piece to make sure we get a nice clean cut, but we will cut all the way through this time. And there you have it. Perfect circle every time.